Hi, I hope this message finds you well. This is a Dvar Torah for Parshas Bereshit 5781. And I want to turn our attention to the very end of the Sedra. The physical universe, including people, have been created. Shabbos has been experienced. The mistakes and the consequences have been discussed. And we now turn our attention to the transition. After the genealogy is shared with us regarding the generations from Adam until Noach, we look at the beginning of Perek Vav, chapter 6. The final Aliyah, the seventh Aliyah, we are told, Vayir'u v'nei Elohim es benos ha'adam ki tovos heina, vayichu lehem nashim mikol asher bacharu. That the children of Elohim, which commentaries tell us just means people of stature. They saw the women around them, and we are told by the Ramban, by Nachmanides, that they forced these women to enter into marriages with them inappropriately, and they chose women in a very gluttonous, animalistic, and inappropriate fashion. In the very next verse, chapter 6, verse 3, Hashem tells us he's having second thoughts. Second thoughts about whether this whole project of humanity was a good idea. You and I know the end of the story. He finds Noach. Noach is the exception. The world begins anew with Noach, as we know. But I want to harp on this point, which is the Torah specifies that the world's treatment, humanity's treatment, man's treatment of women, or a husband's treatment of his wife, civilization's treatment of women has the capacity to either continue mankind or to end mankind. In other words, the flood, the Mabul, and the anger, the wrath of God is preceded here in our text with the mistreatment of women. And so let's turn our attention now to the next many thousands of years, the next almost 6,000 years in terms of what was expected of us. The Jewish people have the Torah, and in the Gemara, in the oral tradition, we are told, make sure le'ahovas ishto kegufo, love your wife as much as you love yourself. And the Gemara is talking to the husband now. It says to the husband, mechabda yoter migufo, to honor your wife more than yourself. So why would it say that a person should love their spouse equal, but to honor their spouse, specifically the wife, even more than they honor themselves? And for one, psychologically, it's hard to love or to concentrate on somebody else even more than you love and concentrate on yourself. But more than that, I think honoring is an action. Honoring is an action, and honoring, we have the ability to go above and beyond. And Maimonides tells us that we can even use our resources to make sure that we have that honor and share that honor. But the fact is that this is codified into Jewish law. This section of Gemara, unlike a lot of other sections, is a requirement in terms of understanding that we have to go ahead and honor the wife, the woman, more so than the husband. And such honor is critical to a Jewish home. That's what the Gemara says. The reason why I want to connect these two passages, one from the written tradition, one from the oral tradition, is because I think they flow together. The oral tradition has codified for us that if we want to have a world that is successful, if we want to avoid destruction, if we want to understand and learn from precedent and to learn from humanity, the history of humanity, from the creator of the world, we realize that on the one hand, the mistreatment of the world can lead to the destruction of the world, as has already happened. On the flip side, the more positive side, that treating women with honor, are going above and beyond, and that's why it's codified, because we might not otherwise honor them at the appropriate levels. So women need to understand the revolutionary approach in which the Torah has gone with humanity. In fact, we study this passage to understand that marriage as an institution was necessary, to have formal consent from both parties because of the very pathetic and very evil origins of mating within human civilization. And that's why we are expected, when we have a home, to make sure that the husband, in terms of understanding Jewish law, needs to go above and beyond, because for whatever reason, without this special instruction to honor even more than one honors oneself, then we might be more similar, heaven forfend, like these original Nephilim, B'nai Elokim, these people of stature who abused their power and they were involved in gender violence. And it's codified as well in the Shulchan Aruch, in our code of Jewish law, that a person needs to be especially careful. Rabbi Yosef Karo says that a husband should not cause pain to his wife. And why is it said in that direction? And I believe that it's connected to our passage in this week's Parsha. That just like the flood and such horrible destruction of humanity happened as a result of the mistreatment of women, so too we are warned accordingly that in our own microcosm, that in our own smaller circles, in our own community or in our own homes and within our own families, we need to go out of our way to make sure that we do the opposite of what took place here and go above and beyond what would normally be expected, and to tap into the wisdom that is the Torah that says, no, on the contrary, success will come through honoring women. And that is why we have the marital infrastructure that we have with regards to the consent that we introduce to the world in the marital institution. That is why we have the obligation, as spelled out, to honor and not to pain one's wife. And that is the way for us to understand in general that our view of society, our view of humanity and the family unit is to make sure that ideally a healthy family, we understand, is one in which the husband honors his wife in an exceptional way and goes out of his way to be sensitive and not to, God forbid, pain his wife. And with that, we'll have a successful, thriving home. The specifics or how that works in terms of the chemistry or the makeup of the mind, that might be a longer discussion. That might be a different study session. But the general idea, as that which comes from our Sedra in the last Aliyah, is that this is the idea that we need to practice to the best of our ability with whatever specifics that means for our situation, to make sure that we honor women in a unique way in order to make sure that we have a thriving family unit and in turn a thriving society. Have a wonderful Shabbos, and please be in touch.